So this is part 2, doing professional responsibility research. And I'm going to try and talk a little bit faster this time so we can get through it. If you remember, in the first part of the slideshow, we talked about the different sources for professional responsibility research. And mostly we focused on the first part of the slideshow, the mandatory sources, including the state rules of professional responsibility and the court decisions interpreting those state rules. We also talked about the ABA model rules and how we would find them and how we would find out how the state rules differ from the model rules. If you remember back to the first part of the slideshow, I also had a slide about persuasive authority, including ethics opinions, disciplinary proceedings, and secondary sources. So that's where we are now. We're talking about ethics opinions. So the ABA and the bars of the states all publish ethical opinions in response to requests for advice from lawyers. So they're advisory only and they're not enforceable, but they can be cited to show how a particular bar has interpreted a specific rule. So they can be helpful for us, even though they're not binding authority. So how would we go about finding state legal ethics opinions? Well, the ABA Center for Professional Responsibility, we looked at their website already, they have a list of all the different state organizations that issue legal ethics opinions. So that can be a really good source to find free online sources. In Westlaw Classic, we can go in, as we did already, to look at other legal ethics and professional responsibility materials. We can go in by topical material, by area of practice. The only thing is, not all the states are available there. On Westlaw Next, we can do something similar. We can go into administrative decisions and guidance, and we can pick legal and judicial ethics and disciplinary opinions. On Lexis, we can go in similarly by area of law ethics, but the same problem that we have on Westlaw, we have on Lexis. Not all the states are available. So one really good source is the ABA BNA Lawyer's Manual. I've mentioned this a couple of times. It includes all the states, and it also has a subject index, which is really helpful. So this is the source that I'm really going to focus on. We're going to go out and look at that in just a minute. The final source listed is a source that's available only on Lexis. It's on lexis.com and Lexis Advanced. So let's go out and take a look at this ABA BNA Lawyer's Manual that I keep telling you about. So in the previous slides, I told you that it was available on Westlaw Classic and Lexis Classic, but I like to go in it through our database list because I think the presentation is a lot nicer. It's a lot easier to find things. So I'm going to go BNA database by, I can go either the whole list or database by subject. If I go through the whole list, I'm looking by title. If I go by subject, I can scroll down to ethics. And just like when we were on Lexis or Westlaw, there's a lot of components here that you could look at. So there are ethics opinions, there's rules, there's the ABA model rules. But we want to look at indexes, ethics opinions indexed by jurisdiction. So we can pick our jurisdiction. Let's look at Massachusetts as our example. And what we can do is we can look at the area of law that we're interested in. So let's again look at candor towards tribunals. And this gives us some of the Massachusetts ethics opinions that have talked about this issue. And it gives us a little summary of the decision. So that's just a quick slide about how to find state legal ethics opinions. So let's use Massachusetts as our example again. In Massachusetts, there's actually 2 different bar associations that you could look to for ethical opinions. So kind of keep that in mind when you're doing state research. You want to think of, are there multiple places where you might look for ethical opinions? In Massachusetts, we have the Mass Bar Association, and we also have the Boston Bar Association, and both of them online have links to their ethics opinions. Okay, sometimes your state won't have actually talked about an issue very much or won't have an ethic opinion on the rule that you're interested in, but we know that most of the states have adopted the rules based on the ABA model rule. So we can also look at the ABA formal and informal ethics opinions, and they're available on Westlaw and Lexis, and they're also available in print. But I know most likely the easiest way for you to get them is to look on Lexis or Westlaw, and I've given you the database on Westlaw Classic. That's the database identifier. On Westlaw Next, you can type the name into the Go bar, and on Lexis.com, that's the trail. So similar in both areas. So formal ethics opinions are of general interest, so something that the ABA just addresses and says social media is a new topic and how does that affect lawyers and judges, that kind of thing. ABA informal ethics opinions, they're only issued for a specific set of inquiries, so it requires a specific set of facts. And the ethics opinions are not on advanced yet, so that material has not moved over yet. So finding disciplinary decisions. If you want to see if an attorney has been subject to discipline in a particular state, in Massachusetts, it's the Board of Bar Overseers, and I've given you the web link there. Let's take a quick look at that actually. So this is what the Board of Bar Overseers page looks like, and you can see they have things listed by date and also by the name of the attorney. So you could get a sense of one of these. You could take a quick look at it. The order was a public reprimand and gives you a little bit of the facts. So in Massachusetts, the Board of Bar Overseers disciplinary proceedings are appealable to the SJC, so there could also be SJC decisions on point. If you were interested in another state, you could check with the individual state disciplinary agencies, and the ABA has a directory of those. There are also some disciplinary decisions on Westlaw. So on Westlaw Next, you would want to go the same way as we were talking about for ethics opinions. It's the home. We're going to go administrative decisions and guidance because it's an area of administrative law, and legal and judicial ethics and disciplinary opinions. And there are some disciplinary opinions there. And on Westlaw Classic, I've given you the breadcrumbs trail, but it's basically the same that we've been going in throughout this lesson. It's the legal ethics and professional responsibility library. So I want to talk a little bit more about secondary sources. I'm going to go out again to the ABA BNA Lawyers Manual from our list of law library databases and show you the practice guides because they are very, very helpful. Another very persuasive source is the Restatement of Law Governing Lawyers that's available in print on Westlaw and Lexis and on Hein Online. There are other secondary sources including this treatise called The Law of Lawyering, which is a good one, pretty famous one. Lee Peoples has written a research guide, so it could be helpful if you're trying to do a research in the area of legal ethics and you want to go outside the scope of this slideshow. And again, remember when we're looking at a particular state, we want to look for state secondary source materials as well. For example, in Massachusetts, there's an MCLE treatise, Ethical Lawyering in Massachusetts, which could be really helpful. So let's take another quick look at the ABA BNA Lawyers Manual. And again, I'm going to go in through our database list because I think the presentation is a lot better. So I'm back at the ABA Lawyers Manual on Professional Conduct. Again, I got here from the database list from the Law Library page. And earlier we looked at ethics opinions by jurisdiction, but now I want to look at the practice guides. And they're listed here, all the guides, and let's look at the index actually. And we could look at, see if they have candor to the tribunal here, and they do. They have candor towards the tribunals, and it gives us a sense of the different issues that we could be looking at. Let's take a look at this one in general. And so it gives you a basic introduction, some information about the model rules, the state code, so it gives you, if a state code differs, how it differs. And then it talks about the rules. It gives you a little bit more explanation here. And you can see there are links to the model rules. There are links to ethics opinions. It lists cases that might have discussed this rule before. So it's a really, really helpful secondary source because it gives you an understanding of the rule and also links to primary source material. And again, that really helpful secondary source is the ABA BNA Lawyer's Manual. So this was just hopefully this second part was a lot shorter, following up on our slideshow number 1 about areas of research that we can do when we're looking at an issue of professional responsibility. So it's an issue of administrative law, and we're also, the other similarity we can draw is that it's very similar to the court rules research that we just looked at.